Does it have to do with Odell Beckham Jr.? What is it?
OBS, maybe?
We will see what ends up happening. Yes, Odell. We will see what ends up happening.
AJ, good fucking reporting. My question: OBS is the reason why the OBJ situation's happening in Cleveland right now?
Which one's OBS?
Odell Beckham Sr.
Catch up, dude.
Oh.
That's a good one.
I don't know that he's the reason. I feel like he's more of the. I mean, don't you think that Odell knew what he was doing?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So then he goes into the locker room, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, hey, what the fuck is this? And then the coach has got to ask, and then there's no actual explanation. And Andrew Berry's like, you know what? Let's just be done with it. Is that what's happening? And is that how it happened?
I don't know how the Browns are going to actually deal with Odell. I don't know what because they have a lot of options here. They can send him home, which he's not there today. They can cut him. They can suspend him. They can force him to play and then make him say, no, I'm not playing. Like there's actually a lot of different ways they could handle it. Having a disgruntled player. Now, most teams eventually move on because it's just not worth it. Now the Browns are already paying him and they have to pay him. So that is an issue as well. But yeah, I mean, anytime you have someone's father posting videos of, look at my son being open. Anyway, none of that is good.
But the Odell Beckham Jr. news is really starting to heat up.
Are they just going to release him?
Well, Ian Rappaport said a bunch of different things. We could force him to play, and it was like, well, is OBJ saying I don't want to play? I don't know. Oh, wait, Odell Beckham Jr. has tweeted, I guess, is what Zito said. Oh, Jason La Canfora has tweeted about OBJ. Browns and Odell Beckham Jr. may be able to reach some sort of financial resolution to end his time in Cleveland, but as of now, a team not willing to waive him and is willing to burn a 53-man roster spot just for him to stay away and excuse him indefinitely. That's a new one for me. This isn't over. If we're going to pay you the money we fucking owe you right now, okay, you're playing for us or you're playing for nobody. Okay, so you can just stay home. I do not care. But I am not going to turn on TV on Sunday night after our game, and I'm not going to see Odell Beckham Jr. in another jersey making a high and celebrating if we are paying you, is what the Cleveland Browns are saying right now. Yeah. That is, if that Jason La Canfora, Paisan?
Paisan.
Is it Paisan?
Yeah, Canfora.
Hey. Gabagoo, huh?
Gabagoo.
Hey, how's your family, Jason La Canfora, huh? Hey, pretty good now that you're breaking this news. Okay, so Browns and Odell Beckham Jr., the financial resolution means they're currently negotiating an opt-out, a buyout, whatever the case, whatever it would be. I'll be interested to see who wins that negotiation, if that's ever made public, by the way, because we know where the number's starting at. What is it, 8 million, 7 million, 9 million? $7.5 million? What is the number that they own?
I think it's 8 that it was
I think it's 8.5.
I thought it was 8.5. Yeah.
Whatever it is. We know we'll be able to know exactly what it is. I assume they'll be able to make it public. How much does Odell Beckham want to get out? How much do the Browns want him out? How easy is a deal made? Is it, hey, no more money because Odell's made a bunch of money, we don't pay you anything, and you just
Hey, do we do that though? Like do they ever do that where players don't get bought out in the NFL?
Well, I think you can sign a new contract, right? Renegotiate a contract.
Yeah. I guess if they could renegotiate and say, all right, you're going to get $3 million the rest of the year, maybe it makes it easier to trade you.
Yeah, well, not trade. It's past the trade deadline.
My bad. Yeah, you're right. But so then someone would claim you off waivers, I guess.
Yeah, maybe. Yes. And the waivers, that contract would be. Yeah, it is fascinating how that plays out. A dynamic player for the Cleveland Browns named Odell Beckham Jr. Field Yates is reporting that if Odell Beckham Jr. was to be released, the team that would inherit $8.5 million the next year, then like 12 or something. There's a lot of money that is left on that contract. So I would assume the reason why the Cleveland Browns would rather pay him to go home and not do anything as opposed to trade him is because they don't know if he'd get picked up through the waivers, and they can't trade him. Obviously, it's after the trade deadline. But here's Field Yates' tweet. If the Browns release OBJ, he'd then be subject to waivers. If claimed, a new team would inherit his deal. 2021, $8.05 million. 2022, $13.75 million salary, $1 million roster bonus, $250,000 workout bonus. Then in 2023, those last 2 years aren't guaranteed at all. Doesn't matter at all. This tweet means nothing. So you're picking up $8.05 million for the rest of the season. That's it. If you claim Odell Beckham.
Very misleading. It's a misleading tweet, I feel like.
Well, and also, I should have just read the bottom first, I guess. Hey, Field, we go from top to bottom here, pal. Jesus. I mean, what the fuck? I guess that was a good tweet because it caught our eye, I mean, hey, good Twitter, Field.
All right, Field.
But if claimed, the team would inherit $8.05 million for the rest of this season. Now, it is also being reported that there's only a couple teams that could handle that type of salary cap. So I wonder how and what the next steps would be between the Browns and OBJ. If they cut him, and he goes through the waivers and doesn't get picked up, they'll have to pay him that money, and he could double dip and go sign somewhere else. If they cut him and he gets picked up, they're off the hook for everything. Okay, have a good one. That's probably the fear, I'd assume at this point, is that he maybe doesn't get picked up, then he can double dip, and they'll pay him, and somebody else will also be paying him, and he'd probably be playing better. Jesus. I mean, that was a tough one, but he'd probably be playing better. Yeah, you get it. Somewhere else, and they don't want to see that. Is that what's going through all their minds? That's why they're trying to figure out the next step. Could he retire? Is that the way to get around this? How would you get around this entire thing, you think?
I don't know if retiring would get around it, but yeah, I'm sure if the Browns knew that he wouldn't be claimed, don't you think they would release him? Like if they knew for sure, but there's a good chance he's not claimed.
No, I don't think they want that because if he's not claimed, they have to pay him.
That's what I mean. If they knew he would be claimed, don't you think they would let him go?
Yeah, so what would you have to do to get him claimed? You'd have to just drop it down to like a $1 million salary. But then if it goes down to like a $1 million salary, they renegotiate somehow and they get that deal done. Then some team that is not in the hunt at all, because the way the waiver wire goes is like, I think worst team to best team or whatever.
He doesn't want to. That's the thing. Players a lot of times don't want to be waived because you go to the worst team that claimed you.
Well, it's not until recent, by the way, recent history, I guess a few years ago, where vested players, veteran players, didn't have to go through the waiver wire. Like you got cut, okay, now you can do whatever. It was only younger people. They changed that rule, I guess, because now everybody has to go through it. That's insane to think about. That is how the NFLPA let that fly. I have no idea. Hey, good work.
Yeah, nice job.
Good work in there. Just taking all control completely out of the players' hands. But I don't know what they do. I don't know what they do to make this situation better. It's a roll of the dice.
They realize, it doesn't seem like they realize that we're going to be paying him this $8 million for the rest of the year. And if we're paying him, we want him playing. And if not, I guess they want him to sit at home. That seems kind of crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. They'll have to figure it out. But more importantly, like, how do you build that relationship back up maybe? How does Kevin Stefanski potentially get OBS and OBJ back on the same page?